What's up, Canuck fans? Welcome to the Line Change Podcast, a proud presentation of DraftKings Sportsbook, as well as a proud member of the Hockey Podcast Network. Be sure to check out the network for your favorite podcast covering your favorite team at the hockeypodcastnetwork.com, the home of hockey podcasts, every team, everywhere. We're here live for our first post-game show in 2026, and we're starting things off with a bang as we got a special guest joining us for this post-game show. None other than Harman Dayal of Canucks Conversation, as well as The Athletic Vancouver. Welcome, Harman, to the Line Change Podcast. How are you doing today?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really nice meeting you at the Canucks Army Watch Party a couple of weeks ago, and I'm doing really well. Really excited to kick off 2026 by covering some more hockey.
Yeah, for sure. For those who may not know who you are, I find it hard to believe no one would know who you are. Just introduce yourself and let everyone know who you are and what exactly it is that you do.
Yeah, I've been a full-time Canucks writer for The Athletic since 2019, so this is my 7th season covering the team. The last few years, I've also expanded into covering not just the Canucks, but the whole league. So I've got more of a national lens now. But I also co-host Canucks Conversation. That's a show I'm on with David Quadrelli, Monday to Friday. So I've done this as a career since 2019. It feels like the years have whipped by.
For sure. Now, I usually ask a few questions of everyone who I bring on for the first time, starting off with who's your favorite hockey team?
It used to be the Canucks. I grew up in Vancouver, a lifelong Canucks fan, but then, and this is a pretty common trend that when you talk to other people in the media landscape, you might start a fan, but then once you start covering them for work, the fan in you naturally dies. You're looking at things through an objective lens. It's your profession. You need to approach it as professionally as possible in terms of your analysis. And I just found for myself, I'd grown up as a Canucks fan my whole life, but once I started working in the media sphere, I lost that emotional connection to the team. I still deeply care about how this team does from the perspective of, like, my audience is Canucks fans, and I want my audience, readers, people that listen to the show to be happy. So I'm still passionate in terms of covering the team, but at this stage in my life, because it's work for me, I'd say more just a fan of hockey as a whole. I love throwing on random game. Like, I watch every Canucks game, but in addition to that, I love throwing on. There's always a hockey game going on in the background, even if it's non-Canucks related. I just love high quality NHL hockey.
Yeah, fair. Do you have a favorite player by any chance? Could be Canuck or non-Canuck.
Yeah, so I'd say Sidney Crosby. I fell in love with the 2011 Canucks. So pretty much anyone on that team could be fair game. But in terms of just a league-wide standpoint, as a kid, Crosby single-handedly made the Penguins my second favorite team to watch. Had a Crosby jersey as a kid growing up. Also had a Marc-Andre Fleury Penguins Winter Classic one. So, and then when he scored the golden goal for Team Canada at the 2010 Olympics happening here in Vancouver, that just cemented it further. So I'd have to say Sid.
I asked everyone, if you could change one thing in Canucks history, what would it be?
One thing in the Canucks history. Ooh, that's a good question. Probably one of the outcomes of either the 2011 final, that Game 7, or the 94 Game 7. I wasn't born yet for the 94 Game 7, but have obviously heard so many things about that and done the research. And of course, they were agonizingly close in that series against the Rangers. And then the 2011 one against the Bruins. I really thought that was the year. I thought that was the year they were going to get it done. They would go up 2-0 in the series. Then they go up again 3-2. You think, all right, they've got two cracks to get it done. Even when they lost Game 6, you still felt pretty confident that they were going to get the job done, even though their lineup was decimated by injuries, because at that point, game 6 loss, you're thinking, oh, well, they haven't won in Boston all series long. They're just going to win on home ice, as they have this entire series. And then for that to end up as 4-0 shutout, that'd be the one thing I'd change, because that Canucks team, to have multiple Hall of Famers on it, the Sedins, Luongo, Burrows, Bieksa, just the depth up and down the lineup. It is a shame that they were ravaged by injuries. I think by the end of it, the Bruins were the healthier team. They had more juice left in the tank, and it's just a shame that that group couldn't ultimately cross the line and win a cup, because they were a really special one.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into this game. I have the so here we go. First period, obviously the Buffalo Sabres, the only 2 goals in the first period. First one by Tage Thompson, assisted by Bo Byram and Owen Power. And then Ryan McLeod, shorthanded, assisted by Alex Tuck. Your thoughts on these 2 goals? I believe I missed the Thompson one, as I hadn't turned the game on quite yet, but I did see the McLeod one, and it looked like a bit of a breakdown defensively for the Canucks on that Ryan McLeod goal.
Yeah, the Thompson one was interesting, where it was a broken play, essentially, just the way that it developed. Couple of weird bounces. Bowen Byram was trying to drive the puck into the slot. It goes off a leg or a skate, and then it ends up right in front for Tage. And this is what makes Thompson one of the most deadly scorers in the NHL, is if he has even just the smallest daylight of space to rip a shot, he's going to capitalize on it. And to my eye, I believe he's got one of the 5 best. He's one of the 5 best shooters in the NHL. Just the way that he can catch and release from any spot on the ice, just a casual flick of the wrist, and he's able to score from any part. In this case, it was relatively close to the net, but the last time these 2 teams met, he scored in Rogers Arena, and that was from the high slot area. So anytime Thompson's got the puck in any part of the ice with time and space, he's gonna have a really good chance of pawning it home. And then the McLeod one was, as you said, an unfortunate breakdown where Kiefer Sherwood isn't able to cleanly pick the puck up off the wall. It's a 2-on-1 coming back the other way. I don't think Tom Willander played it particularly well, or when you're the defenseman defending a 2-on-1, you'd rather leave the shooter to the goaltender, and then your job as the defenseman is try and prevent the pass across, because that once the opposition is able to seam it east-west, it's so difficult for the goaltender to explode post to post and make that stop. In that case, Willander wasn't able to do it, and the Sabres capitalized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few things I noticed in the first period. A couple bad turnovers by the Canucks in that first period alone. And we'll obviously talk more about the turnovers later on, as I believe I counted 15 turnovers by the Canucks in this entire game, which is not good unless you're, trying to tank, purposely. I thought Demko made a really great save on Alex Tuck, followed by that save on Owen Power, a really good scoring chance for the Buffalo Sabres. I also felt as though the Canucks looked really good on their first power play, but UPL was very sharp. And then things kind of dwindled for the Canucks, or kind of faded away for them. Both teams were even on the faceoff dot through the first period. Canucks, after the first period, 5 giveaways in just the first period alone. So as I mentioned, some bad turnovers. What were your overall thoughts on that first period for the Vancouver Canucks?
Well, not just for the period, but the game as a whole, especially the first 40, 45 minutes, if you want to call it. It felt like they were really leaky defensively in their own end. The Sabres were able to apply a lot of consistent pressure. It was way too easy for them to get to the interior, the prime real estate scoring areas. as you mentioned, they were sloppy managing the puck, but also in terms of their in-zone defending, I thought they were scattered all over. They weren't quite making the right reads, unable to win battles down low. And there was just so much open ice for the Sabres to work plays off the cycle and then eventually funnel a pass into the slot area. It felt like Demko was under siege the entire evening. And you look at the quality of chances that the Canucks surrendered in that game. It's no wonder why the Sabres put up as many goals as it did, 5 in that one. And in today's NHL, a goalie can only do so much if the defensive environment in front of him is porous. And so you may look at the shot totals, and the Sabres only mustered 20, and you'd look at, well, the Canucks generated 35 shots on goal. You'd think they controlled the game, but when it comes to actual shot quality, there were just too many breakdowns in front of Demko. And it's the type of game where you look at a save percentage on paper and say 789 save percentage, that looks really rough, and yet a lot of those goals were off. I mean, a lot of those goals were off east-west passes, which are really difficult for goaltenders to stop. And there were a lot of other sequences where the Sabres were able to work it in tight and get looks from the blue paint area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one thing I noticed. The Sabres were really moving the puck around, getting into those open spaces. But moving to the second period, there was the only lone goal in the second period by Alex Tuch, his 13th of the season, assisted by Byram and Norris. So Byram, 2 points already in this game. There was a good chance by Sherwood and / O'Connor, a little shorthanded between the two of them, that Sherwood just wasn't able to get in. That was the one where UPL was completely turned around, and Sherwood essentially had an open net, but couldn't get the puck on net. That's another thing I noticed in this game. The Canucks, while they were outshot the Sabres, a lot of their shots weren't very good quality. They were missing the net a lot in this game. We mentioned the defensive breakdown earlier. I noticed another one on that Alex Tuch goal. And then you mentioned Tage Thompson earlier, and just seeing him carve through the defense with those hands that he had when he had that chance. Man, imagine having a guy like Tage Thompson on a team like the Canucks. I know a lot of Canuck fans have been saying, oh, go out and get Tage. Yeah, I don't think Buffalo's letting go of him anytime soon.
Yeah, and it's what the Canucks, especially after the Quinn Hughes trade, really lack is that kind of instant offensive game breaker that can create chances, goals, and threaten the opposition at ease and do it consistently, right? Night in, night out. They don't have that right now. And look, Elias Pettersson used to be that at one stage in his career, and it was nice to see him score in the third period there, but he hasn't been that guy for almost 2 years. 2 years now. January 2023 heading into that, or January 2024 heading into that All-Star break is the last time we saw him operating like one of the best offensive players in the NHL. And for Buffalo, it wasn't just what Thompson was able to do, but how active and aggressive and how dynamic the Sabres defensemen were as well at manufacturing offense, where you saw Bowen Byram jumping down the right half wall, dishing that pass across. Again, east-west movement. It's so difficult for a goaltender to stop those types of chances. I remember when Rick Tocchet used to be the coach, that was one of the biggest priorities for him coming in as a head coach in terms of shoring up the club's defensive play. Was kept talking about wanting the goaltender to be able to only have to play one half of the net. That's been a consistent issue for them this season. It's why they've been one of the most permissive defensive teams in the NHL. But to go back to the Sabres and how many dynamic pieces they have, you had Byram on that play, but you also know you have one of the best defensemen in the league, and Rasmus Dahlin, who can cook offensively. And then even to see Owen Power, who has been terrific for the Sabres over the last month as they've gone on a heater. They've got a lot of players from the back end that can activate, that can make plays, and they truly attack as a 5-man unit. It isn't just the forwards that they rely on to create offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed a lot of the Sabres, controlling the play, kind of basically hemming the Canucks in their zone, for good chunks of the second period. I did make a note of Elias Pettersson falling down after getting bumped by Tage Thompson, trying to, do a little shoulder check into Thompson, and Thompson was just like not having any of it and just knocked him down. Gerald will probably really like the fact that I pointed that out because he likes to call PD Bambi. So I had to point that out for Gerald. Sherwood with a great chance in that second period. Oh wait, I already mentioned that, the one with UPL's back turned. But there was also a good chance for Jake DeBrusk, who we'll talk about in just a little bit. Just kind of mishandled the puck, driving the net. I already mentioned the Canucks missing the net a lot. Canucks were out shooting the Sabres 21-16 after 2 periods, but despite being down at this point 2-0. And then at this point, the Canucks were at 10 giveaways after 40 minutes, which is really alarming to see. Once again, both teams even in the faceoff dot once again, but I'm sure Canuck fans aren't really paying too much attention to the faceoff percentages between the two teams. More so the fact that the Sabres at this point were essentially embarrassing the Canucks through 40 minutes.
Yeah, it felt like a game where they were outclassed for most of it, and if it wasn't for the furious comeback that they had in the third period, that stretch where they scored 3 goals and momentarily made it interesting, it would have been a pretty embarrassing scoreline. So yeah, through 40 minutes, it was difficult for them to find a lot of traction. Again, had some shots, but when it came to true grade A's, outside of the initial power play that they had in the first period, where they peppered 5 or 6 shots on goal, and that's where you thought, okay, they're manufacturing some quality looks as well. Outside of that stretch, it felt like a pretty listless performance for them through 2 periods.
For sure. And of course, we move on to the third period where we had a bunch of goals compared to the prior 2 periods. You have Zach Metsa scoring his first NHL goal, assisted by Malenstein and Greenway. And then you had Jake DeBrusk, who actually drew the 4-minute penalty for the Buffalo Sabres, is able to score on the power play, his 11th of the season, assisted by Sherwood and Besser. So Brock Besser ending his point drought that he was on, not his goal drought, but his point drought that he was on, getting an assist there. And then, of course, Elias Pettersson with one heck of a shot where he just spins and fires it on net, something we haven't seen from PD really all that much this season. We've seen it in like flashes, but I thought that was a really nice goal by PD. Once again, assisted by Besser. So Besser with a 2-point night, and then Philip Hronek with the secondary assist. And then you had Liam Ogren, who made it interesting with his 3rd of the season, assisted by Marcus Pettersson and Linus Karlsson. So Linus Karlsson getting on the board when it comes to points. And then, of course, I mentioned in a tweet, Josh Doan basically icing it, ending the comeback for the Canucks with his 13th of the season. I did want to get into some bad and some good. For now, I have bad, just as, mainly talking about the giveaways by the Canucks. Basically, by the end of the game, they were at, I believe it was 15 by the end of the game, which is terrible. Mind you, the Sabres weren't much better. I think they were up to like 9 or 10. Did you see anything else that was bad from the game other than, the score?
Yeah, I mentioned the defensive zone coverage. Felt like they were running around at times, not quite on the same page. And really, it's the East-West stuff. I can't stress this enough. Where you look at a lot of the research that's out there, and the shooting percentage for a shot that's preceded by a pass across the slot is around 30%. So it goes in nearly one in every 3 tries, and get a couple goals of that exact variety. In this one, it was something that hampered them, especially on the penalty kill through the first quarter of the season. At points in December, you notice them start to shore some of those areas up, and some of those breakdowns weren't quite as egregious. But this has been a trend again, where the last handful of games they are giving up a lot more defensively, and I think big picture, what it means for the rest of the season is I find it hard to believe how they're going to escape a bottom three finish, which is good news if you're on Team Tank. But yeah, I mean, that was my biggest takeaway in terms of what wasn't going right, and as well, it's nice to see Pettersson scoring that spinning shot, but I thought his wingers for a lot of the night were quiet. I know Besser picked up a couple of assists. I don't think he necessarily did a lot to drive. It's not as if his assists were instrumental. They just were pretty normal puck touches that eventually led to the goals. I'd like to see him more involved from a defensive standpoint, right? That line was on the ice for a couple of goals against, especially when the Metsa line scored, right? That's when the Sabres have their fourth line on, you don't expect your top line to be hemmed in there. So I'd say that was that was an area where you would have liked to see them perform a little bit better. And to me, that wasn't on Pettersson, that was on his wingers. Besser, I also thought Kane's defensive effort at times was lackadaisical, and that's been a trend over the last few games as well, where I think his effort level away from the puck needs to be higher. Beyond that, I mean, it's a lot of the same storylines that we've come to expect, where since Quinn Hughes' departure, it's been harder for this back end to transport the puck cleanly up the ice. That's why sometimes you end up in situations where they get hemmed in for some of these long defensive zone shifts, is because they don't have a player that can just effortlessly wheel the puck out, be the one-man breakout machine that Quinn Hughes functioned as for the Canucks. So those are some of the areas that that stood out from that game.
I do have a couple. A couple good that I kind of noticed. I don't know if you may have noticed them, but one I did put was Philip Hronek. I thought he looked pretty okay. Like, he wasn't, spectacular, but I thought he looked decent, and he continues his strong play this season, especially with, the departure of Quinn Hughes. I did put down, Besser ending his point drought with his 2 assists. I also added Sherwood, who adds to his point totals with all the trade speculation around him, and also apparently the Canucks now wanting to re-sign him now. I saw earlier. But I guess also another good would be Liam Mogren, once again, getting a goal, and then maybe that Pettersson goal. But I thought Pettersson had a bit of an off night, but so did his wingers, as you just mentioned. Looking at the game stats here, it says here 34 shots on goal, but it was actually 35. I did this pretty quickly, so they probably updated it. But yeah, as you can see, there are 16 giveaways for the Canucks, 15 for the Sabres. So a bad game for both teams when it comes to giveaways. 12 block shots for the Sabres, 8 for the Canucks, 17 hits to the Sabres, 16. Sabres slightly better in the faceoff circle with a 51.8% to the Canucks' 48.2%. And of course, the Canucks managed to score on the power play, and the Sabres were not able to get a power play goal. Was there any good that you may have noticed, considering?
Yeah, I think even though Besser, I thought his performance was only okay throughout, and as I mentioned earlier, I didn't think that the plays he made on those goals where he picked up assists were necessarily standouts. You hope at least picking up a couple points can lift his confidence so that he can be more of an impact difference maker, where he can be more noticeable. Even if you're not scoring goals, you got to find a way to win board battles. You got to find a way to make an impact, help out defensively, just do other things to help your line control possession, spend time in the offensive zone, and in hope that eventually the goal production is going to need to come as well. So you hope this is a building block for him, even though I still think there's a lot of room for his play to improve despite the couple of points that he picked up. I'd say DeBrusk, since he's been scratched, has had a lot more jump in his game. He's been more noticeable in the forecheck, scores again tonight, living in and around the net. That's the kind of play you want to see from him on a really consistent basis, being involved, showing some energy, hustle, getting on the scoreboard offensively. So I'd say that was a positive. I'd echo what you said on Filip Hronek, where on a night where the Canucks didn't necessarily control a ton of play, noteworthy to me that he logged 2107 at 5-on-5, and in that time, the Canucks had a 13-6 edge in scoring chances, 20-10 advantage in shot attempts. So his underlying metrics were stellar. Wasn't on the ice for a single 5-on-5 goal against. And he continues his trend where he's been this team's clear number one defenseman since Quinn Hughes departed.
I did want to bring this up. This isn't, related to the game, but obviously this kind of broke, I guess, what was it? Like, I believe it was during the game, actually. And obviously people know from yesterday, Rick Dollywell reported that Braden Coots was being traded to the Prince Albert Raiders. And then during the game, we actually found out what the actual haul was. I mentioned that I had Brandon Astle on the show last night, and we were kind of talking about it a little bit. But here's the actual package that the Seattle Thunderbirds got for Braden Coots. And wow, is all I really got to say is that is quite the haul. You got 4 players and then 4 draft picks. Obviously, there was draft picks attached to Coots as well that went towards the Prince Albert Raiders. What is your reaction to this major haul that the Prince Albert Raiders got for Braden Coots?
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what Coots can do on a team that is stacked, is deep with offensive talent. Curious what that could do for his point production, where when he was drafted last summer, his production didn't necessarily jump off the page, especially relative to other prospects that were drafted in the first round. But one point that people kept referencing is, well, Seattle Thunderbirds aren't a very good team, and Coots didn't have a lot of help around him. So naturally that could suppress his point totals. Going to a better team where he's going to have better wingers to play with. I am excited to see what that could do for his offensive output through the second half of the season, and even just for his development to play meaningful hockey, to go on a team where hopefully they can go on a deep playoff push, contend for a Memorial Cup, perhaps gain some big game experience instead of floundering on a Seattle team that since winning the WHL championship a couple of years ago, they had to rebuild essentially, because they had certain players like Kevin Korchinski graduate to the NHL, and that's kind of the life cycle of these junior hockey teams. Is you've got a much narrower window to win. You've got to time it right, because you only control junior hockey players for so long. You've got to be really intentional about when you're gonna go for it, and understand that when you have a chance to win, you should 100% put all your chips into the middle of the table, and understand that, all right, when your top players do then graduate to professional hockey, then there is going to be a lull like the Thunderbirds are going through right now, where you aren't going to be winning a lot. There's going to be a price to be paid for some of the pieces that you went out and acquired and win now trades. And so for the Thunderbirds, this is restocking some of those assets and building for the future. And for the Raiders, this is their chance to go all in with Braden Coots, who I imagine this is the last year we're going to see him in the WHL, now that 19-year-olds with the new CBA can play in the American League. So even if Coots doesn't make the NHL as a full-time player out of camp next year, imagine he'll at least be in the American League.
Yeah, that was one thing I talked with Brandon about yesterday, and how excited he is about the potential of Coots, possibly, if he doesn't make it out of camp, starting in Abbotsford next year and really bolstering that Abbotsford team. I want to get into some comments, because I noticed there is some people are starting to pile in a little bit. But Swervin Urban, who I believe is a regular on Canucks Conversation. We also have Elfrin in the house. good buddy of mine from the watch parties. Harman or Swervin asked, how much do you put much stock in the comeback attempt, or is that just score effects?
It's a bit of both. I mean, I'd say one thing it does show you is that despite the scoreline, they didn't just roll over, and I think that matters when you've got a young group that you're trying to build the right culture, and it's tough to do because at a certain point, the talent deficit is too great to overcome, where you are going to be losing a lot of games. But the one thing you don't want to see is on certain teams where things haven't gone well for a long time, what will happen is you go down a couple of goals and then it feels like a team is just going through the motions. So it is nice to see some pushback, some fight, that they aren't just going to mail it in, that they aren't just going to quit it. And especially when when you have a young guy like Liam Ogren contributing in the scoring as well, that's nice to see. But by that same token, it is also the Buffalo Sabres. It is a little bit of score effects as well, but even though the Sabres have been on this run and are legit playoff contenders now, one thing that stood out to me about them throughout the whole season is they're really talented. They're really quick. They've got a ton of skill, but because they are such a young team, they are a frantic group that is prone to a lot of highs and lows, that doesn't necessarily manage pressure the best way. And I even remember the last time these two teams met at Rogers Arena. I was at that game, and the feeling that I got was that the Sabres were just a little bit frenetic, a little bit chaotic. So I think this is also, not just about the Canucks. This is part of the chaos of the Buffalo Sabres, them being a younger team, them still learning to win, how to close out games. So to me, it's a combination of a few factors. And ultimately, again, I'm on Team Tank. So at the end of the day, even though the comeback attempt was valiant, the regulation loss helps their chances of finishing low and landing as high of a draft pick as possible in the summer.
Mm-hmm. I did jokingly tweet out, talking about, those who are Team Tank are probably loving this score. This was when it was, I believe, 3-0 at that point. And I jokingly said we should start cheering for the Winnipeg Jets, cheering for them to win so we can be last. Because right now, obviously, Winnipeg is, 9-game losing streak. They are dead last in the league, and we're kind of competing with the Winnipeg Jets for that last spot. We have another question from Urban, and he asked, has there been any word on what teams have offered in a trade for Kiefer Sherwood?
So I haven't necessarily done a lot of poking around on this. We've seen, I think, reports from a few different insiders sort of speculating that if the Canucks had been offered a first-round pick by another team, they would have already pulled the trigger on it. It's an interesting spot for them. The one thing I will say is I know that the Canucks are open-minded about what a return for Kiefer Sherwood actually looks like. It's not just we want draft capital. If there's they're generally open-minded when it comes to we want U25 assets in general. So if there's an equivalent young player that they really like, they'll be open-minded about targeting that kind of player. Or if it's even a younger prospect, a 19, 20-year-old that hasn't broken into the NHL yet, but who the organization is maybe a little bit high on. Now, I'm still of the mindset that you should be targeting draft capital in all likelihood, because if other teams are offering you, let's say, a 23-year-old, it's probably a reclamation project, and those reclamation projects just hit at a pretty low rate, as we've seen in Vancouver, not just during Jim Rutherford's time as president of hockey operations, but even going back to the Jim Benning era, when they made all those age gap trades for names like Sven Baertschi, Lyndon Vey, Adam Clendenning, Derek Pouliot, on and on. So yeah, I would sum it up as kind of saying, clearly based on some of the reports that are out there, no team has really blown the Canucks away based on the offers. They are open-minded about the return, and Ultimately, I'm curious to see where his what the return for Kiefer Sherwood trade actually looks like. For a long time, I've been 50-50 on whether I actually think he could fetch a first-round pick, because on the one hand, you see Trent Frederick at last year's trade deadline going for a second-round pick plus a couple of low-end pieces, and you think to yourself, well, Sherwood's caught a chance to crack 30 goals this year. He's far outpacing what Frederick was doing last year. So theoretically, Sherwood's trade value should be significantly higher, and you'd think he should be able to command a first-round pick, especially when you also see Mason Marchment going for a second-round pick to Columbus recently as well. But then on the other hand, you also wonder if teams look at Sherwood's production as being boosted by him getting opportunity on this Canucks team where he's getting power play one time. He is playing a ton of minutes, and other contending teams may look at him and go, well, we don't expect him to continue scoring at this high of a rate, especially because he is on a little bit of a shooting percentage bender. So maybe that's why teams, at least to this standpoint, have yet to truly step up with an offer that the Canucks can't refuse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we even have Justin Credible in the house, good friend of mine. He's actually just on his way back from Vegas. Like, he's like literally like in the air. But we got a question from Elfrin. He asks, when would be the best time to trade Sherwood, before the Olympic break or before the trade deadline, which is 2 months away from today?
I'd prefer to get it done sooner, especially because Sherwood, with the style of play that he brings, the aggressiveness, the physicality, all the hits, you're always a little bit worried about what if he gets hurt, and then all of a sudden one of the most valuable trade chips that you have is worthless. So that's always a worry that lingers in the back of my mind. And the Canucks are in a spot where there are a lack of sellers in the NHL right now. A lot of teams haven't figured out exactly where they are, even teams further down in the standings, where I imagine a team like Winnipeg, even though they probably should be pivoting towards selling some of their pending UFAs off, I imagine that with half the season still left and the Western Conference being as, still being relatively compressed, and with the West in general just being pretty bad compared to the East, that they probably haven't completely waved the white flag on their season yet. Now Calgary's come back down to earth a little bit. They've lost a couple in a row, but their winning has put them in a spot where they are maybe still in a wait and see mode when it comes to decisions on names like Rasmus Anderson, Nazem Kadri, Blake Coleman. But Nashville, another example of a team that they've been on such a great heater, and with that in mind, that probably delays their decision on whether they're listening and really ready to move off of Ryan O'Reilly, Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault. So the point I'm trying to make is you're in a spot right now where there aren't a lot of clear sellers right now, and the closer you get to the trade deadline, teams will naturally fall out of it. They'll make more of their players available. And then so all of a sudden, if you're a team in the market for a middle six forward, you've got more options than just to keep for Sherwood out there right now. So I'd prefer something earlier, but at the same time, you don't want to move him for something that is below market value as well. So you've got to balance those two things. But generally speaking, I'd prefer to get it done sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree on that. Actually, I think I saw someone float the idea of Dallas being one of the teams that is interested in him, and potentially, a Maverick Bork. His name came up. I think I saw a tweet about that while I was actually watching the game. But we have another question from Urban. Given the shortage of centers in the league, should the Canucks be looking to deal Pettersson, perhaps to a team getting old down the middle?
Yeah, Pettersson's a really interesting one, where before the Marco Rossi trade, or like before he came into the fold, I would have thought to myself, if you trade Elias Pettersson, you've essentially got nothing like no established veterans down the middle. And even a rebuilding team, you want to have at least one or two guys that can play, that can at least hold their own in top 9 center minutes. Because, for example, when a Braden Coots comes into the NHL, you don't want to force him into a spot where immediately he has to be the first or second line center. You look at the way Bo Horvat developed, and Horvat started on a fourth line. And this was at a time when the Canucks weren't very good. Although in his rookie year, they did still make the playoffs, but they were able to gradually work Bo up. And he was able to develop the right way. Whereas sometimes you get to certain teams and there's just no one there. So you have to force non-superstar prospects to play higher up the lineup, and that can sometimes be detrimental to their development. But now that you've got Mark Rossi here, you've got one guy at least who ticks that box of Rossi is a legit top 6 centerman. And for me, when I look at Elias Pettersson, I'm just not convinced that he's going to return to being a superstar, like bona fide number 1 center in Vancouver. Now, maybe with a fresh start in an environment where he's got an elite winger to play with, where there's less media and fan pressure, quieter market, less noise. Yeah, I could see a scenario where he perhaps bounces back and is a point per game 1C again. But the thing to keep in mind is for Pettersson, he is 27 years old, so he's not old, but I think this rebuild is going to take a while for the Canucks to execute. And the question I ask myself is, how old is Pettersson going to be when you've finally gotten to the point when you have a Canucks team that can contend for a Stanley Cup? He's going to be well into his 30s. And at that stage with age-related decline, and I know the cap is going up and centers are being paid a ton of money, so his contract maybe will age a little bit better than we expect. But if you've got Pettersson in his early to mid 30s at $11.6 million, just as you're trying to peak again in the NHL, that thought worries me a little bit, especially since, like, if this is his baseline and through his late 20s and early 30s, we see further deterioration from this point, all of a sudden that's a contract that you're not going to want on the books. So I think the other question you have to ask yourself if you're the Canucks, and I'm not fully equipped to answer this right now, is if you're going to keep him, you need, and really any veteran that you keep, you need to make sure that they genuinely want to be there, that they're willing to, and not just willing, but excited about building up and being part of this, of developing younger players, of mentoring, being a really good leader, and understanding that there's going to be a lot of pain and a lot of losing on the horizon. I go back to last season and how many times, whether it was from Rick Tocchet or Patrick Allvin, did we have conversations around practice habits or fitness? And this wasn't just a Tocchet thing. I remember when Canucks went out and made the Miller trades and acquired Marcus Pettersson then. And remember having a meeting of media availability, a group of us reporters, where Patrick Allvin spoke really candidly about PD needing to not only improve on the ice, but step up his practice habits, his commitment and dedication. And I think for the last couple of years, we've wondered, is he as obsessed with improving his game and becoming the best player that he can be, compared to, let's say, Quinn Hughes, who was constantly working on his craft and constantly finding ways to improve. Now, credit to him, because he came into this season and by all accounts has been working really hard on the ice, but that's an assessment on the guy's character that you've got to make as well. So with all these things in mind, I think it's a complicated decision. I think it's a layered one, especially because he has a lot of control with that no movement clause, but it is a legit thing that you're going to have to think about, because to me, it isn't a foregone conclusion that just because you have him now and he's locked up, that he should be here forever.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And I know you have to run, so appreciate all the questions from everybody. Unfortunately, Harm has to run, so we're going to at least end it off Harm's part from here. Thanks once again for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. Are you going to be at the watch party on the 10th?
Yeah, it will be. So hopefully see a few of the listeners again. That'll be fun.
Yeah, Alvin already, I believe, reserved our table, so I know I'll be there. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you there. Seeing quads, and it's a live rink-wide Vancouver, so I'm actually pretty pumped for that. It's be a first time for me. Japan Force says, "See you at the barber shop." I guess he's mentioned that you guys both have the same barber, Steve there. But yeah, once again, thanks for doing this, Harm. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can do this again. Hopefully Gerald can actually be a part of it. I know he's playing basketball right now. But once again, thanks for doing this, Harm. Really, really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I'll see you on the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, man. All right, that was Harman Dayal of Canucks Conversation, as well as the Athletic Vancouver. And yeah, that was a lot of fun having Harm on. I was, pumping it up, saying, it's going to be fire. And what a way to kick off 2026 than having Harman Dayal on the post-game show. We've had, quads on a couple times. And I figured got to have the other half of Canucks Conversation on. So glad that I was able to get this done. Now we just need Jacob to come on, and then we can do the trifecta for Canucks Conversation. But I'll dive into your comments. I might actually message Gerald to see if he's going to come on or when he's done basketball. Maybe you can maybe continue the conversation about this game, although I don't know if there's much more to talk about when it comes to this game. As I mentioned when Harman was on, it was pretty embarrassing performance by the Canucks. I was, having a hard time watching this game. Granted, I was like kind of in and out when it comes to watching. I was, trying to get everything set up graphics wise, like the scoreboard and whatnot, and doing my best to pay attention. But it was very, very difficult to do so, considering how dominant the Buffalo Sabres were tonight. And man, it looks like the Buffalo Sabres are kind of on the up, especially ever since firing their GM. That's kind of, I believe, right around the time when the Sabres started going on that hot streak, was when they hired their new GM. His name slips my mind right now. But why don't you guys let me know in the comments what you guys thought of this game. We can talk a little bit more about it. But I'm going to do my mid-show sponsor read, and then we can talk more about the game and, the very poor performance by the Canucks in this game. But I want to start off by thanking my primary sponsor, none other than DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting book of the NHL. The jaw-dropping moments that make hockey, hockey. Experience them all with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Missouri listeners, listen up. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in the Show Me State. New customers, this one's just for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN, that's code THPN, to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Pass-through of per wager. Tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which will expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. This is a limited time offer. Copyright of the NHL 2025, all rights reserved. All right, thanking my secondary sponsor, the maker of this amazing artwork you always see behind my shoulder and the amazing artwork that you see right in front of you, Gassy Jack Art. Go ahead, check them out at gassjackart.com. All right, let's dive into a little bit more of the game. First off, as I mentioned at the top of the post-game show, first post-game show of 2026. So happy New Year to everyone watching and all my listeners. I know I've put out a couple videos since the turn of the new year, mainly talking about, Brock Besser, Drew O'Connor, which I meant to talk to Harman about, because he was the one who was really talking about Drew O'Connor being a trade chip potentially to the Winnipeg Jets, being a good team that he would look really well on. And that's the name, Jarmo Kekalainen, I believe is how you pronounce it. Buffalo GM. Swervin says, word is that he came in and simply told them that they needed to work hard and anything less would be unacceptable. This message was to players and coaches. Woo! So it looks like Kekalainen came in and was, basically put his foot down and look at what happened to the Buffalo Sabres. They go on a 10-game winning streak. They obviously suffered that loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets the other night, but then they are right back in the win column with a win over the Vancouver Canucks 5-3. Swervin says, given the way they played their last dozen games, I'd say that tracks. Yeah, for sure. Alfred says nobody in Buffalo is safe. I'm assuming, I guess, if they screw up or do a bad play, perhaps that might be what Alfred is saying. As I mentioned to Harm before he jumped off, there is a watch party going on this Saturday at Greta, January 10th. Canucks face the Toronto Maple Leafs in this game in Toronto. So this is the big Toronto versus Vancouver game. I know Alfred's going to be at the watch party. I will be at the watch party as well with Alfred. We already, as I mentioned, have our table reserved. And as I mentioned, it's going to be a live showing of Rink-Wide Vancouver. So J-Pat and Irfan Gaffar will be there at the watch party, and they're going to do a live Rink-Wide after the game. So that is going to be very, very interesting. So if you want to come on down, it is a free event. You just have to make a reservation. I'm sure if you watch Canucks Conversation or Sekeres and Price, you guys can find the number for Greta to book your table. I don't have it right in front of me, unfortunately. Irvin, I like watching Harman's eyes in Canucks Conversation. It always looks like he's having a Vietnam flashback when the other guy is talking. Alfred, Leafs suck. I guess while we're here, why don't we take a look at the out of town scoreboard? So I'm gonna actually pull it up real quick as we've had a good night where there's been not really been any internet issues, knock on wood. So I'm gonna pull it up on my phone, the out of town scoreboard, and we can go over that. Scores. All right, so we got lots of games still going on. Oh, that's yesterday. So here's today. The Tampa Bay Lightning defeat the Colorado Avalanche 4-2. The Carolina Hurricanes beat the Dallas Stars 6-3. The Flyers beat the Ducks 5-2. The Maple Leafs beat the Florida Panthers 4-1. And the Islanders absolutely trumped the New Jersey Devils by a whopping score of 9-0. So once again, the New Jersey Devils, not doing so well. There is a game still going on right now. The Jets and the Golden Knights. The Jets are actually winning 3-2 with 4 minutes and 25 seconds left in the third period. So let's go Jets, win so they can gain 2 points. The Oilers are beating the Predators right now 3-0 with 2 minutes about 2.5 minutes left in the second period. And then the Bruins and Kraken are in the first period, tied at 1. And then the Blue Jackets and the San Jose Sharks is about 5 minutes left in the first period, and it is currently scoreless. And Urban, Devils lose. Oh man, that's bringing me back. Is your internet provider? It's TELUS. Unfortunately, TELUS. But I think it's just also just the area that I'm in. You know, we're pretty high up. There's lots of trees. It is raining pretty. Well, I don't think it is right now, but it's been raining pretty heavily so far today. I did notice earlier when I was actually doing my Besser video, the lights were kind of flickering a little bit. I'm not sure if you can actually notice that on the actual video itself. Alfred says tie game, Jets Knights. God damn it. I just left TELUS and switched to Rogers. I've actually been considering switching to Rogers, at least when it comes to my phone. I don't really have a say in the actual, internet provider, as I'm not the one who pays that. So that is up to my dad. But I believe he's actually even considered it too. We do every now and then have people from Rogers actually knocking on our door and asking us if we want to switch. And I believe at one point my dad came like very close to switching to Rogers. But certainly I wouldn't mind having Rogers. I think it's the one company that I've not had, when it comes to like a cell phone or anything like that. I've always been with, TELUS or Bell or Fido at one point. Bell absolutely hated me, and the feeling was mutual. And yeah, TELUS can be pretty slow. We have boosters throughout the house, and even that still doesn't really do a whole lot, at least for me. I literally have my booster like right next to the computer, and I have all those internet issues. Despite that, Alfred asked, how many UFAs do you think will return next season? 5 pending UFAs right now. Well, I think Kiefer Sherwood is an obvious, he won't be returning next season. I do feel as though he will be traded, even though apparently now all of a sudden the Canucks want to sign him, apparently. I do not get what the Canucks are trying to do. And don't get me wrong, I've said it before, I absolutely freaking love Kiefer Sherwood, and I want him to stay, but, he's your big trade chip, your big trade piece, and he can potentially, as what people have been saying, fetch you a first-round pick, so you got to deal him. He's definitely one. Evander Kane, yes, Urban as well, I would say is actually, no, I would say he is not returning. I hope to gosh he doesn't return. Sorry, I got that kind of mixed up there. So definitely not Kane, definitely not Sherwood. Maybe Bluger. We'll see when he actually starts playing again and where that might lead to. Who else is a pending UFA for the Canucks? I'm trying to think. Bluger, Kane, Sherwood. Who else? I don't know. My mind's kind of drawn a blank. Oh, right. Alfred, thank you. Camp. I could maybe see Comp maybe staying. But forward, I'm not sure. Obviously, we don't know what's going on with Derek Forbort right now, as he's been a ghost, like quite literally. Hasn't played a game this season. And I'm starting to think at this point, Forbort may not even play the rest of the season at this point. So he may leave in free agency as well. Irvin says, if Sherwood is on board, knowing that the Canucks won't be contending anytime soon, it might be the only case to keep Sherwood at a team-friendly price or a no-trade clause. I did see earlier the reported offer that the Canucks gave Sherwood, which was around the $4 million mark for, and it was hovering around like between 4 and 5 year deal at $4 million, which I'm a little surprised that the Canucks even actually like offered him that. Because I know the Canucks were not willing to go to 5, which is basically the starting point that Sherwood wants. Sherwood, re-signing or extension starts at a 5, and the Canucks offered him 4, which I don't think is all that bad. And I talked about in my Nuts report the other night that Sherwood wants to be here. He loves it here. He seems like someone who could potentially maybe be willing to take a discount, kind of like Besser. So maybe if the Canucks were to up their offer to maybe 4.5, maybe he might even like consider it if it means, staying with this group and, being on this team for not necessarily long term, but, the next 4, maybe 5 years. We're not even really sure what he wants when it comes to term. We know what he wants when it comes to AAV, but definitely like what Urban just said, it's the logical thing to do is to cash in on Sherwood and get picks back. I mentioned to Harman, the idea potentially of, trading him to Dallas and maybe getting a guy like Maverick Borg in return. I'm actually very high on Maverick Borg. Maybe even Fraser Minton, who we saw when the Canucks played Boston. Apparently, Boston is very interested in Sherwood, despite the fact that during that, Vancouver-Boston game, they couldn't stop hacking his ankles, which actually kind of was really bothering me. Because it's like, you guys want this guy, but you're hacking him in the ankle, in the shins. Irvin mentions Jack Devine out of Florida. Yeah, he could be a potential. Irvin, I'll say this. If I was GM and I had young players, I would be pointing them in Sherwood's direction, telling them to work as hard as that guy or you're not playing. That's actually pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I know some Canuck fans are even saying, like Sherwood is captain material. And yeah, I agree to an extent. Definitely Sherwood is most certainly captain material. I mean, hey, maybe use that as a bit of a bargaining chip for maybe keeping Sherwood around. Alfred, if Sherwood signs with Vancouver, does that mean Sherwood wants to be here while Canucks go for a rebuild of whatever it is? I would say so. If he chooses to, not, maybe go lower than 5 million, if he's willing to take, 4.5, or maybe just under 5, I would definitely say that, it means that he wants to be here. Like he mentioned, in that interview that, he loves it here, and he's really blossomed into a offensive player since signing with Vancouver and the Canucks getting him at a bargain deal. Alfred, is Sherwood really captain material though? I don't see how he can be captain of the team. I'm just seeing some people saying that he could potentially, he's shown, he's got that dog in him. Like obviously, you need other traits to be a captain. I'm still kind of on the whole Garland train when it comes to, potentially the next captain for the Canucks. I could also maybe even see Besser, considering he's the longest tenured Canuck. And, there were, I believe it was reports out there, suggesting that, Canucks are likely grooming Besser to be a future captain of this team. So I could see Besser, I could see Garland, and I think you can throw Kiefer Sherwood into that conversation as well. But I still think it's going to be a while before we hear anything when it comes to captain or whatnot. Swervin, I may have mentioned this to you before, but do you think that Quinn thrives more when he's not the most important guy in the room? Yeah, I would definitely say so. I mean, just look at how he's been playing in Minnesota. He's obviously not the number one guy there. You got Kaprizov, You've got Eriksson Ek. You got Matt Boldy. At least when it comes to like forwards. You also have Brock Faber there as well. And yeah, he's not not all the lights are shined on Quinn Hughes in Minnesota like they were here in Vancouver. Now, people were watching him like a hawk. I mean, yeah, you could still argue that, people are still doing that in Minnesota because they're in awe of the skill that Quinn Hughes possesses. But yeah, I definitely do think he thrives more when he's not the most important guy in the room. And, he doesn't have to do everything himself. Irvin, him being captain in Vancouver felt like when you're at a job so long that you accidentally become a shift manager. Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I say that speaking from somewhat experience. Like as good as Quinn is as a player, he's amazing. Some people just aren't mentally wired that way. Yeah, I mean, obviously, when he was initially named captain, we were all, I don't know if we were surprised by it, but he was obviously the logical choice at the time. He was, the best defenseman in franchise history. I mean, he wasn't at that point, but he was, on the precipice of being so. And I guess out of the three potentials that were there, like Pettersson, Miller, and Quinn was obviously the logical choice. But he was also the more quiet one. I mean, you could say Petey was and is still pretty quiet. But I guess the Canucks, Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford, felt Quinn was, their guy. And then obviously, this past season, we saw things, that we didn't really normally see from Quinn, like the whole, not, skating after a puck, trying to keep a puck in the zone, him kind of zoning out and kind of being checked out at times. We had never seen that previously up until this season. But I believe at that point he was, basically checked out. Obviously, we heard more recently that it was reported. I don't know if it was confirmed or not, but apparently Quinn actually requested a trade, but the Canucks were able to keep it on the down low when that whole trade went down. But yeah, apparently Quinn actually went to his agent and basically said, get me out of here. So. If Sherwood became captain here, something seriously wrong must have happened, like scorched earth rebuild. Alfred, exactly. Scorched earth with a bit of a hybrid form. Irvin, I love it. Irvin, I don't know if you saw my short that I did from when I was at the game. I kind of tried to do what, basically I said in the caption or in the title, cheering on the boys with a little bit of hybrid retool or form. I think I pretty much butchered that. But yeah, I was basically trying to pull a little Irvin with that short. But yeah, I'm not sure. Let me see what Gerald is doing. See if he wants to. I think Gerald mentioned that he was playing basketball until at least 8 o'clock. Let me just quickly message him, see what he's doing. Swedish accent. Oh, what, like my Patrick Allvin impersonation? Vancouver, the Vancouver. The Vancouver Canucks. See if I hear back from Gerald. If not, I may actually cut this a little earlier than I expected. Just because we've kind of already like gone over the game. We've talked Quinn Hughes. We've talked Kiefer Sherwood. And at this point, I'm just rambling to keep things going. Irvin, oh man, this is good. You say a retool with a bit of a hybrid form, Vancouver. Here we go. Rain's in the house. Good to see you, buddy. Patrick Allvin, king of word vomiting. Exactly. That is exactly what comes out of his mouth every single time he talks. Even when he's going Vancouver Canucks. That's just basically, imagine if they had subtitles when he, does like a press conference or does an interview. Imagine if they had subtitles, underneath when he was talking, and then the translation, word vomit. Urban says, yeah, all good. I gotta start making dinner. Yeah, I should probably actually eat my dinner. It's kind of been sitting here. My wife actually brought me home dinner. So I should probably start eating that. Unless you're doing it impromptu open house. I don't know. Maybe next post game. I'm actually not sure when that's going to be, as I am working on Thursday. Unfortunately, actually, what time is the game on Thursday? Is that another 4:00 start? Another 4. Oh yeah, it is Thursday 4:00 for the Vancouver Canucks. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm working till I think 7 that day, so doesn't look like I'll be able to do a post game for the Detroit game. Been working a lot more nights, or I guess I should say mids lately. Alfred in Detroit. That's good. I guess we may as well turn. I guess we've gone from a post game show to a Patrick Allvin roast here on the line change. I love it. Hopefully the Canucks don't see this, or Patrick Allvin himself sees this and he goes Vancouver. But yeah, I will for sure let you guys know when the next post game will be. My schedule's kind of flip flopped around. I don't have set days off anymore. It just or it's probably more looking like I'll have maybe more like Sundays and potentially Mondays off, or maybe even like Monday, Tuesday combinations. Alfred says Vegas looks like they just won. Oh shit! No. I don't want that. Yeah. End of OT, Vegas 4, Jets 3. Gosh. Well, hey, at least the Jets got a point. At least the Jets got a point, and the Canucks did not get a point. So, actually, let me quickly look at the standings. What are the standings? I don't care about Eastern Conference. So the Canucks are still at 37 points. The Jets are at 34. I'm not sure if that's updated. It says updated as of 7:53. So, yeah, the Jets have got a point, but the Canucks are still ahead with 37 points. Swerving with the whole Darth Vader. No. Alfred Hellebuck pushed the puck into his own net. Oh, brother. And that's not going to be good for my fantasy. I'll tell you that right now. Oh, boy. Hang on. I mean, still kicking ass in my fantasy. Oh, Jack Eichel got me an assist. Noise. I mean, even with the loss, Hellebuck still got me like 228 points. Holy crap. Hey, Bobby, how's it going? I haven't heard from Gerald. He's playing basketball. He mentioned that he would be done by hopefully 8 o'clock, which would mean he'd probably take him maybe half an hour to 45 minutes probably to get home. I'm not sure where exactly he's playing basketball, if it's near his house or whatnot. But yeah, Irvin, hopefully he does that in the Olympics too, with Connor Hellebuck. Yeah, definitely. Actually, why don't we kind of go over that a little bit while I try and wait for Gerald. He hasn't gotten back to me yet, but we haven't really talked about the Olympics too much, and Team Canada in particular. Not really mentioning the World Juniors. Obviously, that was very disappointing that Canada ended up not losing to Czech once again. But hey, at least they got a medal this year and, settled for bronze. And Braden Coots is a bronze medalist. Now, let's take a quick look at the Team Canada roster. I want to bring this up if I can. Let me see if I can share a screen. Okay, Team Canada 26. Okay, we got projected roster. I want the actual roster. Here we go. Okay, now let me see if I can share this. Bring this up. There we go. Share screen. Whoops. Why is it not showing up? Why is this not showing up? Oh, that's why I have the wrong thing. There we go. All right, so Team Canada roster for 2026 Winter Olympics includes Celebrini, Horvat. Let me see if I can zoom in on this so you guys can actually see. Damn it, I can barely see that. Can I edit this? No, I can't. I'll just have to open it here. There we go. Okay, so the forwards, you have Macklin Celebrini, Anthony Cirelli, Sidney Crosby, Bo Horvat, Nathan McKinnon, Brad Marchand, Mitch Marner, Connor McDavid, Braden Point, Sam Reinhart, Mark Stone, Nick Suzuki, Tom Wilson. Your defensemen, you have Drew Doughty, Thomas Harley, Cale Makar, Josh Morrissey, Colton Parayko, Travis Sanheim, Shea Theodore, Devon Taves, and then your goalies, you have Jordan Bennington, Darcy Kemper, and Logan Thompson. I know a lot of people are talking about the snub for Connor Bedard, not cracking the roster, but Macklin Celebrini doing so. And yeah, as what Urban said, a lot of people going off about Jason Robertson being snubbed for Team USA. I do kind of think Bedard should have made the team, but I also kind of understand, he just had that injury recently, although I hear that the injury was not the reason that Bedard did not make the team, or it had no factor in it. But it's, this Team Canada roster, especially the forwards, is looking freaking stacked. You got, like I mentioned, Celebrini, Chiarelli, Crosby, Hagel, Bo, McKinnon, Marchand, Marner, McDavid, Point, Reinhardt, Stone, Suzuki, Wilson. It is absolutely stacked when it comes to the forward groups for Team Canada. Irvins I was a big Horvat guy when he was with the Canucks. Yeah, me too. I still have one of his jerseys actually. Who knows? Maybe I'll break out that jersey at the watch party on Saturday. I still haven't decided which jersey I'm going to wear. I know which jersey I will not be wearing, and that is the one that's right there. At least that particular one, because that is the one that's signed, and that is, a keepsake. I do have a separate Miller jersey that's not signed that I could potentially wear. So Schaefer should have made it. Yeah, absolutely. I agree that I think Matt Schaefer was quite the snub for sure. When it comes to Team Canada, I mean, I kind of also understand it. He's in his rookie season, but he's also, had one hell of a season for a rookie, and he's absolutely lighting it up for the Islanders. I'm actually curious if he played in that Islanders versus Devils game. I know he was under the weather recently. Urban, too bad for Stamkos, eh? Yeah, a little surprised Stamkos. But I guess as we know, he hasn't had all that great of a season so far. So from 2010 to now, he was snubbed, injured, and now washed up. I believe you're referencing Stamkos, I believe, not. But yeah. All right, well, I haven't heard back from Gerald, sorry. So sounds like he's still playing basketball. So Schaefer did play today. I wonder how many goals he had in that 9-0 rout. I kind of feel for the Devils State of Mind podcast, who's a part of the network, Neil. Kind of feel for him. He's a big New Jersey Devils fan. He also does the Flames cast with Kyle. So definitely that's got to sting, that type of loss for the New Jersey Devils. But I know they're on a bit of a downward spiral themselves as of late, along with the Canucks. But I think I'm actually going to call it there. We're about an hour and 23 minutes, and we're long past us having Harman Dayal on. So, and I could use some food. So I'm going to go eat dinner, maybe do some other things, potentially for some videos tomorrow. I'm trying to think of some ideas for videos. Maybe I'll do a full-on video on its own on the Braden Coots trade and kind of dive into it a little bit more. Perhaps I'll do that tomorrow. But as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this post-game show. I know I kind of went on a bit of a tangent. We talked about other stuff, but the main thing for this post-game show was having Harman Dayal on, and that was absolutely fantastic, and I absolutely loved it. Actually, let me go back because there was some. Actually, I think I started them. Oh, no, I didn't actually. Here, where was it? Elfren, great interview. Yeah, this definitely probably one of my better ones. Japan for Steve, awesome show. Thanks, buddy. Reverend Evan, what a G. I believe you're referencing Harman, not me, which is totally fine. Totally fine. Irvin, all good, brother. CCC tonight. Yes, I'll be there. I'll be watching. I actually just renewed my Hall of Fame membership, so that's great. Who knows? Maybe I'll actually find that upgrade button and upgrade to legend once again, because it's been a while. But yeah, definitely I'll be watching Clay later tonight for sure. Once again, hope you guys enjoyed this post-game show with Harman Dayal. I had an absolute blast talking with him and having him on, discussing the game, getting his analysis and his insight on the game as well. And I hope you guys enjoyed it too. And if you did like it, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. If you can find and interact with us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok. Feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. And if you want to join the discussion and talk all things Canucks, join our Discord. There is a link in the description down below. It's completely free to join. And if you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow, as well as rate and review us on either platform. And also, if you have a favorite episode, feel free to download it, as that really helps out the podcast. And obviously, rating and reviewing also helps out the podcast as well. So go ahead and do that. It would be very much appreciated. But that's going to do it for the post-game show tonight. Once again, the Vancouver Canucks fall to the Buffalo Sabres by a final score of 5-3. So the Canucks once again lose, and I guess so far here in 2026 are, have yet to win a game here in 2026. They were like, what, 0-2? Or are they 0-1 here to start off 2026? I don't even know at this point. Let's just tank and get either Gavin McKenna or Ivan Stenberg, or who knows, maybe you get, Caleb Malhotra. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, to those that were here watching when Harman was on, thank you for watching. Really appreciate every single one of you. And once again, a very happy new year to everybody. I got big things planned for 2026. Obviously, with it being January now, it's about 11 months since I've been doing this. So almost at that 1 year mark. Hopefully we'll be able to do something for that 1 year mark. And so big things planned for 2026. I'm looking forward to, the rest of the season and, going into the off season. But once again, if you guys enjoyed it, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe, do all that stuff. And as always, let's go Canucks. And I'll see you guys next time.